The next Legend of Zelda game seems to be a very interesting game. Now, recently we've been talking a lot about The Legend of Zelda, with so many leaks, rumors, and information floating all over the internet, going for the new Legend of Zelda and potentially remasters and remakes that we will be seeing in 2026. But this time around, it seems like the next Legend of Zelda game is going to take a spin, something that you might not have expected. Anyways, let's get straight into it. Okay, so looking at this, it seems like The Legend of Zelda is going to be very interesting. It's taking two of the greatest Legend of Zelda games and mashing it together and calling it one. So, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom. Now, these are two Legend of Zelda games that we know that Nintendo, this works out really well for them. Because this is the #1 best-selling Legend of Zelda game and the #2 best-selling Legend of Zelda game, so it looks like we're probably going to be seeing an open world once again. But here's where it comes really interesting. Now, it seems like we are going to be seeing a cross-dimension sort of game. So if you look at a game like The Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds, where you were able to merge with the wall and go between dimensions. This time around, it seems like the game is just going to start to be working on a clock, where the dimension sort of shifts every so often. Now, this is really interesting because it leads you to believe that so many different things could happen. You can maybe become in one time period and then go to the next time period. Or maybe you'll be in Hyrule one time and then you'll be in Broken Hyrule, or a different dimension that takes Hyrule people and turns them into crocodiles. Who knows? But what I will say is, honestly, this is super cool. Now, when exactly is this game going to release? Now, it doesn't look like we are going to be seeing it in 2026. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom just came out. Fingers, doing the little thing. But I will say that this could be a spin-off Legend of Zelda game. Nintendo releases pretty much spin-off games every so often. We just got Hyrule Warriors, and now in 2026, there's a chance of getting something different. Because if you look at the entire Zelda timeline on how games are and when they release, you can see a pretty substantial amount of video games. So if you look, let's start off with Tears of the Kingdom. 2023 was Tears of the Kingdom, of course. 2024 was Echoes of Wisdom. 2025 was Hyrule Warriors. And now in 2026, could we be seeing something brand new? If this is going to be a brand new Legend of Zelda game, which it could be for the 40th anniversary, I don't think that this is necessarily going to be the next Legend of Zelda game, the big game, whoop, but it could be an open world sort of top-down Legend of Zelda game. Because if you look at the original Legend of Zelda game, the Legend of Zelda on the NES, you can see that that essentially was an open world game, but mixed in a 2D environment. So could this actually be a thing? So let's just say that we take The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. So you're playing that game, alright, so it's going to be a 2D top-down game, and maybe is this going to be the next little Legend of Zelda game, the next spin-off game where you're playing that game, the dimensions start to open up, it breaks things. It's kind of like you're playing Rift Apart or whatever, Ratchet and Clank there, where there's different little rifts that open up and then it turns into a whole different cinematic view. Which that would be definitely very interesting. It's very possible that Nintendo will do something like this for The Legend of Zelda. Of course, it's a massive event. Or this could be complete baloney. Who knows? It's really interesting. I think that there's definitely ideas here. There's definitely ideas here for a really great Legend of Zelda game. Because The Legend of Zelda, it's all about exploration, puzzle solving, using your noggin for once to try to solve different things. But then, when you look at different Legend of Zelda games, like Breath of the Wild, for example, it wasn't so much about puzzle solving, it was more about exploration, feeling the freedom to go wherever you want. This Legend of Zelda game could take both worlds and really spin it on its head. Now, we've talked recently about the next Legend of Zelda game potentially taking what has already worked, which is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Those are two fantastic games. And then mixing it with original dungeon sort of things. Now, if this is completely talking about the next Legend of Zelda game, well, then that makes sense. Like, hear me out. You got your traditional Legend of Zelda game, alright? So, you got dungeons. You can go and explore. When you go and collect items, they don't necessarily break, or the key items perhaps. I'm just going to say it right now. I think this is what the next Legend of Zelda game is going to be. So it's not going to be following the same map as Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Nintendo has already confirmed this. This is not going to happen. But it will be an open world, however, and we are going to get multiple different dungeons. So we can get up to 6 different dungeons that are going to do different things. So instead of having your Divine Beast, where you walk out there, you're trying to find a glowy point, you move the Divine Beast, and you're done. You do an actual dungeon, an actual temple, where you have to go into different rooms, solve puzzles, use your noggin, do all the dungeon things. But then the items are going to become key items. They're going to become key items, or at least the items that will not break. So you'll get the hook shot. You'll get different items like different powerful swords, like new powerful swords and from past games. Maybe you could get the fire wand or the ice wand or different things just to make the game really interesting. Once you collect that item, you can do that. Now, how will this work with open world? Open world games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you can climb. Can't you just ruin the entire thing by climbing your way across the dungeon? Well, let's just say that it's going to be a dungeon that it pretty much strips you away from everything. Just like Breath of the Wild's Trial of the Sword, or even the Tears of the Kingdom shrines, where it got rid of everything and you were left to solve with what you got. You can bring maybe one weapon into the dungeon, or they just give you a whole bunch of weapons. Like it's going to be a trial in each different dungeons. Now that definitely would be interesting. It solves the idea of actually having mainline sort of dungeons inside of an open world game, because you're not going to have any of your powers. You're not going to have anything but the things that are provided to you. So if it so happens to be a bokoblin sword, well, you get a wooden bokoblin sword on the ground. Maybe you get some armor, but it's your decision if you want to make the dungeon really hard and challenging or not so hard and challenging. Just don't pick up the armor if you don't want to. It's completely up to you how this might work. Now, going into the different reality things, how will that work? Well, let's just say that the first dungeon is going to be sort of the tutorial dungeon. The dungeon that you go out and explore, you figure out what is what, how the controls work, and all of these things. Eventually, during this time, some rift starts to form, or a cracked star, or something. A faded star crashes down on Hyrule, which causes things to explode and make an alternate dimension. Sort of like the Pokemon Legend ZA Dimensions DLC, where you were able to hop in portals, but not that strange. Just like a different dimension, or different reality, different timeline. All of these things would make great Legend of Zelda, and we've already seen this before in the past. Sort of like Ocarina of Time, where you had the Ocarina of Time. Arguably one of the most powerful weapons ever, because you can manipulate time. Now this is definitely very interesting for a Legend of Zelda. You can manipulate time, you can see different dimensions, different realities. So maybe you can go inside of Breath of the Wild. You can see the entire Breath of the Wild island, but of course you won't be able to go fully explore it because, there's only going to be a slight chunk rendered in. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it's going to be all of them. Maybe every single little place is going to be rendered in where you can go and explore Breath of the Wild within the new Legend of Zelda game. Dimensions cross ruins. Who knows? It'd be definitely a very interesting thing. But then you can move over to a different Legend of Zelda game that all of a sudden you're 2D. Kind of like you're playing Metroid Prime, where there is different levels that were the 3D environment, and then there's 2D levels. Maybe one of the dungeons could be mixed reality like that instead of it being a full-blown open world 3D dungeon, it could actually be a 2D dungeon, like you're playing A Link Between Worlds and you're crossing in between realities, and there you go. You got yourself a 2D dungeon. I mean, that would definitely be very interesting. And maybe you can have a fully underwater dungeon. You got your breathing apparatus and you can go underwater and you can start breathing. That'd be definitely interesting as well. Or heck, I got another one. What about we can see another dungeon that is low gravity dungeon? Now that would also be very interesting as well. Or maybe you get Ultra Hand from Tears of the Kingdom, or you get different things from other Legend of Zelda games. Maybe you get the Ocarina of Time dungeon, maybe you get the water dungeon, or whatever it is. It would be definitely interesting. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that the next Legend of Zelda game, maybe it's going to be the mainline Legend of Zelda game, or a spin-off Legend of Zelda game, could be something cross dimensions, cross realities? Now the way that I've been explaining this probably sounds more to you like a brand new 3D Legend of Zelda game, because in order to accomplish this feat, you would really have to put a lot of development time. But what if we're completely wrong? What if it's not a Legend of Zelda game, but instead just a dungeon game? So instead of doing your typical Legend of Zelda game, you get an open world or an open island that you can go and explore, but then you go to different dungeons. It's just a dungeon adventure that you're playing with other players. This is definitely interesting. This is so mind-boggling. I could just sit here and talk all day about what we could expect. How is this going to happen? And honestly, I kind of hope that this is true, because I love going back to different realities. Speaking on timelines, speaking on different illusions into the multiverse is what I like. Like, honestly, that is just cool. You can go in between realities. Like, it's amazing. So anyways, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that The Legend of Zelda is going to a mixed dimension? Or do you think we're gonna sit back, relax with our classic dungeons and our classic open world? Because I guarantee it right now, the next Legend of Zelda game is going to be open world. So if you wanted it to go back to a linear state, well, the next mainline 3D Legend of Zelda game, probably not gonna happen, because if you look at the sales number for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, those two games combined outperform every other Legend of Zelda game, which is kind of crazy. But I'm not saying that we're not going to be seeing some sort of remake remaster, because The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is set to get a full-blown ground-up remaster, and we're probably going to be seeing a bunch of different Legend of Zelda games. In 2026, it's really wide. It's wide open on what we could see. Imagine we could probably see something like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. As long as we don't get Twilight Princess just 4K whatever, with like fully upgraded textures and all that stuff, well then if they just do the HD port, there's a big chance of seeing Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD. And speaking on different HD versions, The Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds. We previously mentioned it, I'm gonna say it again, this is a game that I really want to see. It allows players to get a chance to play games that they haven't played before. That's what's so great about remasters and remakes. You can go get yourself a game, go to the store, pick up a game that you like. I never got to try, I sold my 3DS, whatever the case may be. You walk over there, I got my game, it's time to play. Game on, boom, and you put in your game and you start playing. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year. And I hope that you consider to hit the like button, maybe subscribing if you're new. We do a bunch of different Legend of Zelda, Mario, Pokemon, pretty much anything Nintendo. News is probably the big portion right here. So if you like different news on video games and a funny art style, consider to hit that subscribe button. It's completely up to you, but I personally would really appreciate it. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.